India's Operation Sindoor that struck 9 terror camps and infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, in which over 100 terrorists were killed. Pakistan, however, continues to engage in denial and bases counter-allegations. Shocking visuals of a funeral that were held in Muridke have now emerged. Their audio screens, and these visuals have been put out by Pakistani media itself. A ceremony was conducted for Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists who were killed in the strikes under Operation Sindoor. Pakistani army officials were seen with a man called Hafiz Abdur Rauf, the man that you see on your screens in the white kurta pajama. Hafiz Abdur Rauf, a designated terrorist. A prominent figure in the LET, Rauf is known for his role in recruitment and training of suicide bombers. His presence at the funeral, which was conducted with full state honors, showcases the Pakistani state's clear support for designated terrorist groups. However, the Pakistan army has now attempted to whitewash this. DG ISPR has claimed that Hafiz Abdur Rauf is actually an innocent family man and a preacher. He went on to show Rauf's identification card as proof. However, in doing so, he has provided further evidence that Rauf is indeed a terrorist of the LET. Exactly what India has been saying. The identification details provided by the DG ISPR matched perfectly, viewers, with the details of Hafiz Abdur Rauf in the sanctions database of the United States government. In the US OFAC sanctions website, Rauf was listed as a specially designated global terrorist. Meanwhile, now India is expected to present all of this evidence that we've collected in the past 5 days of Pakistan's terrorist links as well as his complicity with terrorism before the United Nations Security Council's 1267 Sanctions Committee. The committee is expected to meet in the coming week. Will this have any impact? We take that conversation forward with our guest, Ambassador Suresh Kumar Goyal, Professor Madhav Nalapat, Major Gigi Dwivedi and Amjad Ayub Mirza with us on the broadcast. Let me begin this conversation with Ambassador Suresh Kumar Goyal. Ambassador Goyal, will India presenting this photographic evidence now, which is been put out by Pakistani media, might I add? They were the ones who were airing all these funerals that have taken place, mass funerals that have taken place in Pakistan in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor. Does the presentation of this evidence have any impact on the global community?
Devika, I think Pakistan and international terrorism together have lived, if I'm not mistaken, for more than now 40 years. 1970, I remember when they began to use international terrorism and the networks as an extension of the foreign policy or an extension of their ambitions in India more than 40, 50 years ago. And what has happened the 40 or 50 years ago? Has Pakistan ever learned from their international exposure or even any kind of evidence given by any country to any forum? Pakistan, after having sheltered Bin Laden, very shamelessly continues to really receive all kinds of support and aid and material from the country whom it has harmed. I don't think, therefore, Devika, that we can really talk in terms of any kind of transformation or changes in Pakistani behavior, even if those visuals have come from Pakistan itself. That's a tragedy, really. And our own enemies across the border, China, continue to support it. Turkey, whom actually we helped during the earthquake, continues to provide a lethal armor to Pakistan. We need to know the reality. And the reality is that Pakistan will continue to support international terrorism, particularly as a matter of the extension of its own strategic policies across the border into India. And then therefore, I will come to it later on, I think we need to look at it very, very seriously, that at the end of this war, at the end of this skirmish or conflict or whatever you want to call it, where do we take Pakistan and how do we deal with Pakistan? But later of that, really. But frankly speaking, I do not see Pakistan changing its behavior anyway, even an iota after what has happened. Devika.
Okay, Professor Nalapat, then of course that brings us to the second pertinent question that I want to take with you. A lot of times then it's asked, why does India then prepare these dossiers? Why does India then collect this evidence and present it to the international community when it clearly doesn't have any impact? We've seen how none of the 2611 dossiers have had any impact till date. And we've also seen in the very recent past, just after Pakistan carried out this terrorist attack in Pahalgam, and we had presented evidence that it is an offshoot of the LET that has taken responsibility for it. The IMF held a meeting and sanctioned that $2.3 billion loan to Pakistan. It's all happened literally in the past 2 weeks. So then the question becomes, Professor Nalapat, why is it still important for India to continue to collect this evidence and continue to present its case before the world?
Devika, we can throw up our hands and say, okay, nothing. But the reality is that this terror factory is there, it exists, and it needs to be exposed, if not once, then many times. Now, the good news is that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, most of what will be presented will be technical intelligence, not human intelligence. In 2611, unfortunately, too much human went into the hands of Pakistan, and they were able to identify some of those who were sources of information for India, and of course, other people who were not sources, but who were caught and tortured and finally executed. So there was a horrible human cost to that human, revealing of that human. One has to be very careful to see that sources are not revealed, but I think in 2611, we were in such a hurry to collect a very comprehensive dossier. And frankly, as correctly been said, the behavior of the Pakistan military is not going to change. Fundamentally, unless its terror infrastructure is dismantled, it will not change. But the fact is, it is Tekken that is most likely to be shown this time. And Tekken is, in a way, unanswerable. I mean, you have so many, if you ask me, you have so many, pieces of evidence. You have timelines of those pieces of evidence. You have videographic evidence, and you have got audiographic evidence, and various other kinds of evidence. And personally, in my view, it may be that you may find, for example, that there will not be a resolution against Pakistan. Unlikely, frankly, to be blunt. But the reality is that let the information be there in the hands of the UNSC, and it is so that let them understand what exactly it is that what exactly is the kind of country that they are protecting. So I think it's a very worthwhile exercise, and I think it needs to be done. And yes, I fully agree with Ambassador Goel. It will not make a material change for a moment, but the reality is, as this evidence sinks in, the fact is that those who support Pakistan or those who tend to ignore the terror factory that's the Pakistan military, well, they won't have any place to hide, and they'll be exposed as what they are, either indifferent to terror or facilitators of terror. They become.
Absolutely. Major General Gigi Dwivedi, I want to pose the same question to you, sir. I want to understand from your perspective as well. How crucial does it become for India to continue then gathering this evidence? And do you think that something has changed in the world today, specifically in the past decade or so, where we see more and more people now have access to not just phones and cameras and that sort of technology, but also to social media? For example, the role that social media played in the past few days itself, wherein before governments or official channels could confirm blasts at, say, a Noor Khan Air Base and other military targets in Pakistan, videos emerged from Pakistan itself. So do you feel that in such a day and age, it will eventually become difficult for Pakistan to keep all of these terrorists hidden, because more and more people now today make videos and put it online? Like I said, the evidence that has come out this time is not something that India has concocted. This is all over Pakistani media channels that cut across to these funeral processions.
Absolutely, Devka. Today, technology is in everyone's hands, and therefore, information travels at the speed of light, and every individual is empowered to gather the first-hand account or the first-hand evidence of what's happening on the ground. But Devika, we need to understand what is the rationale behind it. Until we understand that, we will not be able to come to any logical conclusion. The point is that terrorism, proxy war, is part of the doctrine of Pakistan Army. And if Pakistan Army changes the doctrine, their DNA will undergo a change. So Pakistan Army cannot fight without these terrorists who are the heroes. And this has not been said yesterday or day before yesterday. It has been continually repeated by the Pakistani leadership, no less than Musharraf. He had called these terrorists as the heroes. They are the frontline soldiers. Imran Khan also had stated that we have been using these people to pursue the national interest of the superpowers. And only Khwaja Asif, I think, a couple of days back, said that our madrasas are actually humming with activity, and our young, these terrorists, so-called terrorists, or the jihadis are almost ready to be unleashed. The point I'm trying to make is that Pakistan Army doctrine is based on the proxy war. And terrorists are a very, very important tool. Without terrorists, they cannot operate. And by multiple tenures on the LOC, these terrorists are part of the Pakistani defense post. They do all the dirty work. So the point is that where is any change going to come? As far as Pakistan is concerned, they are deeply embedded into the system. So I don't think that any change is going to happen until Pakistan Army stops ruling the country, until the doctrine of the Pakistan Army undergoes a change. These terrorists are going to be the frontline soldiers, and you quite see how their hierarchy generals like Faiz and politicians have gone on to attend the funeral, and they quite know publicly that they'll be exposed, but they are not worried, because these assets, without these assets, Pakistan Army will become a lame duck army. Second point is, Devika, we should continue to expose, because that it has a meaning, because you keep reiterating a point, some effect will be there on the global polity, but so far it has not happened. But that doesn't mean that we don't make an effort, because today in the globally, it's not only defense forces who fight, it's the fight is on the diplomatic front, fight is on the economic front. So therefore, I think diplomacy must go hand in hand. These the proofs must be provided. At the same time, we should understand the Pakistan Army is not going to mend its ways. These heroes will continue to be there, and they cannot fight without them. So all I can say is that we need to accept this fact that terrorists will always be the frontline soldiers of Pakistan Army. But on the diplomatic front, we should continue to make effort. Whether it doesn't yield result, doesn't yield result, that is immaterial. But we should actually move both on the both front, diplomatically as well as militarily. Devika.
Amjad Ayub Mirza, bringing you into the conversation there, I want to understand from your perspective, how long do you think the world can continue to turn a blind eye to Pakistani-backed and sponsored terrorism? And why do you think that after all those conversations one had post-Afghanistan, when the United States of America decided to move out of Afghanistan, and there was a lot of conversation that, oh, the US no longer has any specific interest in Pakistan. Despite having those conversations, why do you think the US and its allies continue to want to turn a blind eye to the terrorism in Pakistan?
Thank you very much, Devika. The point is, I don't care whether the world turns a blind eye towards Pakistan's atrocities against India or not. The point is that we should not turn a blind eye, or we should not say things to like self-satisfactory, and we have to be vigilant. We don't. 3 days ago, David, this Vance, J.D. Vance said that we have nothing to do with this war and this has nothing to do with us. And after within 48 hours, Donald Trump becomes the champion of peace in South Asia. This is a joke. This is a joke. We have always, agreed to a ceasefire when we are winning battles. I mean, I think that our country, Hindustan, is the only country that agrees to a ceasefire when we are winning battles. We tend to return conquered, occupied territories back to the aggressor. We have to revisit our strategy. ये तिरंगा यात्रा हो गई या राहुल गांधी की वो थी जो पता नहीं क्या जोड़ो यात्रा, ये यात्रों से जंगें नहीं जीती जाती. ये जंगें जीती जाती हैं with decisiveness, with clarity of strategy and clarity of vision and clarity of the target, what we want to achieve. Until and unless Pakistan is dismantled, until and unless this state it comes to its logical end, there will be no peace in South Asia. But it will not end by itself. It will have to be destroyed, or whatever you might call it, by the regional powers. I am surprised why the Taliban Afghan did not open a second front at the Durad line. I'm really surprised, and we should make inquiries about this. Why did we not use the Afghan Taliban to open a second front? Why did we not try to prolong it for another week to 10 days so that the Baloch insurgents could claim total victory over Pakistan army, because the Pakistan army 12th Corps had already left? There are questions to be answered. मैं ये चीज नहीं है कि इस खुशफहमी में अपने आप को करूँगा मार दिया 9 जगहों पे ठोक दिया. No, no, no. I want a result, the final result, which is end of terrorism. They are already moving people out from POJK border areas and installing heavy guns there. Do you think that this peaceful, so-called peaceful period is going to be used by Pakistan for courtesy and cordial, development or trying to develop cordial relations? Not at all. They use the period between two wars for Pakistan is preparation period. It's not reconciliation period. सो ये जो जंग हुई है, आप जरा बाहर निकल के सड़क पे लोगों से पूछे, दिल्ली में, महाराष्ट्र में और शहरों में जाके पूछे उनसे, उनके वॉक्स पॉप इंटरव्यूज करके वो चलाएं, आप देखें लोग क्या कह रहे हैं सड़कों पे. डायस्पोरा सारा जो है वो इस वक्त सख्त जो है वो एंग्री है कि ये सीज फायर क्यों किए हमने. जब हम जंग जीतते हैं, हम उस वक्त कोई तीसरा बंदा आता है, कहता है नहीं नहीं पीस के लिए, फलां के लिए, ढमकां के लिए, और हम जनाब कभी ताशकंद पहुंच जाते हैं, कभी जनाब हम ये इनके से शिमला पहुंच जाते हैं. व्हाट इज दिस? दिस इज नॉट ऑन. लेट्स नॉट मिक्स आवर लव फॉर मोदी विद द ड्यूटी ऑफ द स्टेट. स्टेट ऑफ इंडिया इज हिंदुस्तान को पार्टियां आती जाती हैं, प्रधानमंत्री आते जाते हैं, हिंदुस्तान वही है. हमें हिंदुस्तान के फायदे को सोचना है. मोदी जी को 100 सलाम करते हैं हम कि उन्होंने हिंदुस्तान को इतना बड़ी ताकत बनाया, इकोनॉमिक पावर बनाया. बट वेयर इज दैट मोदी जो पाकिस्तान को क्रश करे? क्योंकि जब तक पाकिस्तान क्रश नहीं होगा हमारा देश सुरक्षित नहीं है. हमारे लिए पहले देश है, उसके बाद कोई सियासी पार्टी.
Yes, Amjad Ayub Mirza, I understand where you're coming from. I completely understand it, and so do the people of India. As you've pointed out, that probably is what a lot of people are feeling. But I want to bring in Major General Gigi Dwivedi to answer some of the points that you've raised. Major General Dwivedi, it's important from a military perspective for people to understand what India has done and why India decided to stop where it has.
Well, Devika, as a military man, I totally go along with Mr. Mirza. We never put down a gun when you are winning. And the point is that until Pakistan army is defeated, it's not going to mend its ways. And again, I say that I'll go along with Mr. Mirza that we have always thrown our military victory at the political or diplomatic table. In 1965, we gave a Haji Pir Pass, which remains the main constitute of infiltration in JNK. And later on, when I was commanding my forces there, I knew how important strategically we just gave it away. I fought 1971 war. We had 90,000 prisoners on the platter. We could have sorted out this issue of Kashmir once and for all. We just gave it away. And I feel that military, once you have a military edge, never give it away, because it's a position on the ground that decides your position on the table. Don't worry about what the world is saying. We got to do what we have to do. And I keep on saying that until Pakistan military is defeated, this terrorism is not going to come to an end, because that is the main tool. So I am also quite disappointed that at this juncture, when we are giving it back to Pakistan, and one more very important thing, Devika, last almost 2 decades, Pakistan military has a free pass. There was a ceasefire on the line of control. All they were doing is to keep slightly pushing these terrorists. And I know when I was commanding the forces there was no ceasefire. The moment we found there some infiltration from some post, we gave them bloody nose. The issue is, Devika, we need to have a very clear-cut strategy. And that strategy is to deter Pakistan to mend its ways. And who is to be deterred? Is the Pakistan army. It is the GHQ, Rawalpindi, which governs Pakistan. They decide the foreign policy. They decide this country's strategy. They are the people. Others are only non-entities. Where their prime minister, their foreign minister, defense minister are only mouthpieces. So point is, Devika, we need to have a very clear-cut, long-through policy. This Sindoor 4 days is not a material. They are again going to come in, and let me tell you, summers are coming. All these terrorists are waiting in their launch pads. They are just only gone behind. They'll come back again, and we'll again look at it and not realize that we lost a great opportunity. So Devika, I am not a warmonger, but I'm a very realistic person. I talk in reality. I am non-political. I think for my country, and I feel 2 things are very important. We must have a very strong armed forces. Don't cut down on them. Don't cut their budgets. Don't cut their, modernization programs, because it is the capability. And you saw, at the end of the day, who comes into the forefront? Armed forces. If you don't actually build up your armed forces, you will not build up the capability. And capability matters. Capability deters. Once Pakistan knows that we can hammer them on any day, then they will behave. So, Devika, my 2 parting words: have a very clear-cut national policy, have a clear-cut strategy, emerge as a strong nation. This diplomacy can take a backseat, because diplomacy has never served us well. We have always lost a military advantage, and let me tell you, military victory comes at a cost. We shed blood, and that blood should not be actually wasted on the negotiation table. Devika.
Absolutely. On that note, I thank all of our guests for joining us on the broadcast. It's all the time that we have to take this conversation forward. A very short 30-second break, and we're coming back on the other side.